officer ambushed.
The cowardly, brazen act of someone walking up and just opening fire on a police officer.
Now fighting for her life.
There's somebody who knows right now, and you should look at yourself and think about how you would feel if your family was facing this as we go into the holiday season.
Fox 45 News team of journalists is demanding answers from city leaders as Baltimore is left stunned by the latest act of violence.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We're certainly doing our best to keep this person both on earth and to recover as best we can.
Breaking news, a city police officer ambushed, shot overnight inside of her police cruiser in South Baltimore.
Here's what we know right now. 1 hour from now, Baltimore police will hold a news conference. We'll bring that to you live on air as it happens. We know the officer was on the job when she was shot. We just got word of a $59,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. This is the FBI has joined the search for the gunman. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Rielle Creighton. We have a full slate of reporters working to bring you live team coverage of this story. We begin with Alexa Ashwell live at police headquarters with what we know right now. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, Rielle, just minutes ago, Baltimore police posting on their Twitter account a $59,000 reward now stands for information in this case. Our last update was about 12 hours ago outside Shock Trauma. That's where this officer was rushed. We're told that she was taken into surgery and on life support. We expect this next update to happen in less than an hour here at Baltimore Police Headquarters. This is what we know. About 1:30 in the morning in the Southern District where this officer was patrolling and working at the time. Inside her patrol car, Baltimore Police Commissioner Michael Harrison says that she was ambushed. Somebody walked up to alongside the cruiser and opened fire. The commissioner then believes that the officer possibly accelerated but then crashed. And that crash is what originally called police to that area. We're told at about 2:15, this officer was then rushed into surgery at Shock Trauma. We got that update from hospital officials there. We did see some family in the area. The commissioner said that he has spoken with the family, and of course they are angry and they have many unanswered questions. Here's what the commissioner and the mayor had to say earlier.
We will find who did this and hold one or as many people responsible for this as possible.
There's somebody who knows right now, and you should look at yourself and think about how you would feel if your family was facing this as we go into the holiday season, and have some decency and say what's needed to be said so that we can get this coward off the streets of Baltimore.
So right now, police releasing very little about the officer. Of course, the big questions that remain: who did this and why, and the latest search for this suspect. We hope to have more information, again, coming up on that live news conference that will start here at 5. For now, reporting live from police headquarters, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Just devastating. Thank you, Alexa. So the question is, has the city reached a tipping point?
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker continues our live team coverage, looking into whether it's time to shift the crime-fighting strategy. Maxine?
Well, Kai and Rielle, with more than 300 murders for a 7th year in a row, and one shocking crime after another leaving city residents' sons, some believe we may now be at a tipping point. The city is on edge after a police officer was shot overnight. It's another crime that adds to the growing list of heinous acts committed throughout the city in just the past 2 months.
I remember thinking to myself, I said, oh, geez, he could shoot me with this thing.
In early November, a priest heading into church in Little Italy was robbed and pistol whipped in broad daylight. The next day, a suspect shot 3 barbers, killing 2 of them before he was killed. 3 days later, a crime that really shook the community to the core when 69-year-old Evelyn Player was found dead, murdered inside of the church where she was a longtime member in East Baltimore.
It's hard to process with all the crime that's going on. It's sad. I never thought that it would touch my family, especially not my mother.
2 days after Player's death, 13-year-old Malia Turner was shot and killed outside of a Sandtown recreation center. Her killer still on the loose.
I don't know what she was feeling. You know what I'm saying? She probably was scared.
And just 1 week ago, father and DPW worker Jake Rogers was shot and killed in front of his own children. Act Now's Bishop Angel Nunez told us after the death of Player, the city was at a tipping point.
Getting upset is one thing, doing something about it is another.
And now, we may just be spilling over.
It'll be a while before we dramatically reduce crime.
Former FBI agent Tyrone Powers told us earlier this week the culture of violence doesn't seem to be getting any better.
I don't think it's a complex issue. I think that it is made complex by the variety of plans we have without a true understanding of what is leading to this particular violence and the amount of politics we have involved.
Mayor Brandon Scott's crime plan was revealed in mid-July with a holistic approach to reducing violence. He promised the city would see less than 300 homicides his first year in office, a promise already broken. And now some believe it may be time to shift the crime-fighting strategy.
People who are experts on crime reduction should be coming up with the only plan, a consolidated focus plan. But right now it's just political policing on one side and the police department defending all of their actions of being defensive on the other side. And the only people that seem to be clear about their mission are the criminals.
Now, we did reach out to Mayor Scott today for an interview. We did not hear back from his office, but again, we are expecting to get an update from police and likely the mayor at 5 o'clock. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. This shooting comes as the Baltimore Police Department faces major staffing shortages. Right now, the department is still hundreds of officers short. Governor Larry Hogan weighing in earlier this year saying the entire system is broken and that people are just not as enthused about going into the profession. They're concerned about not being appreciated and putting their lives on the line.
The tragic shooting of the Baltimore police officer comes on the heels of a special session in Annapolis where lawmakers refused to take action on anti-crime bills.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is live with what the city delegation is saying now.
Riel and Kai, we know that the governor continues to push these two pieces of legislation extremely hard, the Judicial Transparency Act and the Violent Firearms Offender Act. And the governor was extremely critical of the General Assembly just last week for the lawmakers refusing to take up these pieces of legislation. Today, as this BPD officer continues to fight for her life, we're asking Baltimore City's delegation, where's the sense of urgency?
The State House sits quiet while Baltimore City is bleeding. A 27-year-old man gunned down in southwest Baltimore just after 3 o'clock Thursday morning. And shortly before that, a BPD officer found shot at least twice in her patrol car in Curtis Bay. Doctors racing against time to save the officer while the city waits on leadership in Annapolis to make changes.
They are ignoring the out-of-control violent crime.
The governor calling on the General Assembly to pass these two bills during the special session, cracking down on repeat gun offenders and implementing stiffer penalties, plus bringing a report card of sorts to the court system.
It's not just Baltimore.
Baltimore City's lawmakers and the rest of the legislature refusing to even bring up the bills for a discussion.
We're not going to take them up during the special session.
Senate President Bill Ferguson and Senator Corey McCray, both from Baltimore City, say the governor's plans will get a hearing during the regular session in January.
I know that we'll hear these particular pieces of legislation. They will get a fair hearing in the regular session.
But both bills have had hearings before, even passing the Senate in previous years, but never going anywhere. Today, I sent questions to both the Senate and House delegation from the city, asking, why has the General Assembly not called a special session for the violence that continues in Baltimore City? Where is the sense of urgency from lawmakers to do something about the violence? During the special session, you did not push for the two anti-crime bills from the governor. Was that a missed opportunity? All of the lawmakers elected to serve the city refusing to answer.
While we wait for them to act, thousands of people have been killed in the city of Baltimore.
Leaving Baltimore waiting on policies to change with the goal of saving lives.
And Senate President Bill Ferguson was on the radio this morning talking about the violence. The Senate President saying that brainstorming sessions and community listening sessions need to end. And that's exactly what Mayor Brandon Scott continues to do as he hones in on his crime plan. I did ask the Senate President's office today for an interview to talk with him about this most recent violent attack in the city, but that request went ignored. Kai.
And Mackenzie, right now, as far as we know, you're hosting our Fox 45 News town hall tonight, also with Riel. And I'm sure this topic will be discussed, but what else will the panel be talking about?
Yeah, Kai, absolutely. As you know, we're continuing to host these town halls, stopping in each city council district. Tonight, we were supposed to be in the 13th district, but due to unforeseen COVID situations, we're now moved to the Huber Memorial Church just off Loch Raven Boulevard. But as you mentioned, crime will most definitely be a topic of discussion. We'll also discuss Mayor Brandon Scott's first year in office, as well as education, accountability, and transparency inside City Hall, especially as City Hall remains closed as this year comes to an end. We did invite the mayor along with Councilman Antonio Glover to participate in tonight's discussion, but both leaders have refused to participate. But we're going to continue and have that conversation anyway, and it starts in just a few hours. Live in Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. You may recall in July, 2 U.S. Marshals were shot at Security Square Mall in Woodlawn and survived. The suspect was also shot and died. According to the Marshal Service, the officers were trying to serve a homicide warrant on a man wanted for first-degree murder in Baltimore City. When the the marshals approached the vehicle, the suspect began shooting, we're told, hitting the officers.
We first told you about the officer ambushed as breaking news with our Fox 45 News push alert. You can be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab. You can also download the Fox 45 app for your smartphone. Just search for WBFF in your app store.
The officer wasn't the only person shot overnight in Baltimore City. Just after 3 this morning, a 27-year-old man was shot to death in southwest Baltimore. The killing marks the city's 324th this year. That's 6 more than this time last year. There have also been 685 non-fatal shootings, 8 fewer than this time last year. Fox 45 News takes a deep dive into data. Homicides are up 3% from last year. Bank and convenience store robberies are up more than 200%. Aggravated assaults are up slightly. Overall, violent crime is down by 2%, but only when you exclude common assaults, which are up 6%. That brings us to our question of the day. Following the shooting of a Baltimore City officer, do you trust the mayor and elected officials to reduce crime? 97% voted no. Many in the Midwest are still picking up the pieces after this past weekend's deadly tornadoes in the Midwest. How you can help those who have been left with nothing.
Plus, our team coverage of the city officers' ambush continues. We head out into the city to hear from you.
We have to step up as a city. We're asking anybody that knows anything to tell us, and we don't really give a damn how we get it. Somebody knows. We need the information so that we can get this coward off our streets.
Strong, powerful words from Mayor Brandon Scott as a city police officer fights for her life. Well, people who live in that neighborhood in Curtis Bay tell us that crime is an all too real part of their lives.
Shelley Orman is live tonight with their message and the plea for change. Shelley.
They describe bullets being fired all too often, drug dealing happening right outside of their doors, and living with a constant fear of violence. This officer was ambushed just steps from a city fire station. The light of day revealing small glimpses.
That was brazen.
Into the violence taken overnight against a Baltimore City police officer as she sat in her cruiser.
That was nonsense to do that to that cop.
A fence half knocked down. Her cruiser's side mirror broken off in the grass below. Torn up sod on a child's playground.
People got to be afraid to go to the store anymore and walk their kids to the store.
But it's just getting worse. And I feel like when you feel like a cop who you know got a gun on them and a taser and a camera, and you still feel that brazen where you could do something like that, who am I? Who am I? If you could do that to a cop, and her job is only to serve and protect, and she was probably just doing her paperwork.
This woman too scared to show her face or give her name. She's not alone.
They're killing them. So just for anybody, just for no reason, just like they did the cop. Because she was sitting there.
And my grandson woke up and said, Mom, there's police outside. And here where I live at on Hazel Street, it was like at least 7, 8 police looking all around, doing their flashlights.
Mary won't let her grandson play here.
It's a lot of drug dealers go down there, you know. I took him one time, go down there to play, and they're down there smoking weed or whatever. And I said, come on, Malik, let's go. We're going home.
And many say that's where they stay, at home, trying to stay safe.
When I get home from school, he stays home. We stay in, we don't come out. And that's sad that you have to do that.
Because I'm about to go in here and lock myself in, and I'm not coming back out. And I don't let no one in.
They can see the signs of violence.
It's just getting worse. You can smell it in the air.
And feel the fear.
Oh, don't lock them up for this drug, or don't lock them up for that. Oh, if it's just a petty crime, it's not a violent crime, they don't have to go to jail. And they just getting away with it. They're taking their horse and they riding it out the gate. They could think they are entitled to do whatever they want.
And neighbors tell us it's not uncommon for police officers to park their car on that street there in front of one of the stores. But they say even with police in the neighborhood, they still see drug dealing happening out in the open, and there's still far too many shootings. Reporting live tonight, Shelley Orman, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Shelley. Stay with Fox 45. Police are holding a news conference tonight at 5 o'clock. We'll bring that to you live on air and online on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Well, warm winter day outside today. Pretty nice weather out there.
Yeah, it was nice and mild day. It was such a nice, I guess, change.
60s. Honestly, I got to say, it's not that much of a change now because we've been mild.
I am angered. We all should be angered. The 600,000 or so members of this city should be angered. We should all take this very personal.
Powerful words from the city council president. Breaking news that we continue to follow. A city police officer ambushed overnight. A news conference is scheduled to happen in 30 minutes at 5 o'clock tonight. We will bring it to you live on air and on foxbaltimore.com.
And here's the latest right now. Police are offering a $59,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. The FBI is assisting the Baltimore City Police Department in its investigation. Now, the shooting happened early this morning in South Baltimore. Investigators say the suspect walked up to the officer who was sitting in her police cruiser and shot her. She is now on full life support, we understand, and at last check was in surgery.
Well, there are still so many questions that remain about that officer's ambush.
Joining us live in studio right now to help us sort through what's going on behind the scenes is former federal and city prosecutor Thiru Vignarajah. Thiru, we want to thank you for joining us.
Of course.
It's been a very difficult 15 hours since this officer was shot. First of all, we want to express our concern and prayers for this officer and her family. But can you tell us what the city state's attorney's office and city leaders would typically be doing to catch the killer at this point?
You know, I really hope they're deploying every resource to match the urgency and importance of this particular case. You know, people all across Baltimore woke up this morning to the worst possible news, but we have to remember that some family also got a call this morning where their worst fears were realized, a call saying that their loved one was shot and on life support. And that means that the police and the prosecutors have been working hand in hand, chasing down every lead, looking at every camera in the neighborhood, canvassing every door to find out if anybody has any information, following through on any forensic evidence that was left at the scene. That means casings from the weapon that was used. If there were casings, can we match that to the database? Those are the kinds of things that police and prosecutors are going to be doing, because candidly, anger and prayers and thoughts are not enough in a case like this.
So some are drawing connections between this shooting and that of Detective Sean Suter And while we don't want to raise any questions about how police are conducting their investigation, there are some wondering why that Curtis Bay neighborhood was not immediately shut down after.
Look, it's a good question, and I don't know that from this vantage point at this early stage that we have enough information to compare the two crime scenes. A lot of work might have been done between 1:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. when the police first addressed the public. It also may have been a more discreet and finite crime scene. They may have been able to identify from video cameras in the neighborhood where they needed to focus their search. I don't know that we know enough to be able to make a judgment about whether this was specific to this crime scene or if there's a difference in approach because of the criticisms that came down after the Sean Suiter investigation.
Thuroo, we don't want to speculate, and I know in your practice you don't want to speculate on a motive until you have evidence and information in. What we do know that's critical in this city is that we are short hundreds of officers, and I wonder to what degree does that play into the concern of residents and also law enforcement?
Look, whatever strategy the police department and the state's attorney and city hall is trying is plainly not working. You just have to live in this city for 2 weeks to understand the level of chaos and lawlessness, this culture where there are no consequences for criminal conduct. Something has to change. And whether that is from the very, very top in terms of tone, we know that we are down hundreds of officers. Just this past year, according to the BPD's own data, we've had a net loss of 100 police officers. We were already down hundreds of officers. Morale is at an all-time low, and scenes like this, where we don't thank the police officers, not just on days like this when a tragedy unfolds, but every day, recognizing that they wake up, they kiss their children goodbye, and they go into the most dangerous city in America and try to protect all of us. That sacrifice, that risk has to be honored, not just on tragic days like this, but every day.
And there are so many feeling, just really tired, unable to deal with all of the violence that they see. But there are a lot of activists who point to more of a cultural problem in the city. What do you think can be done to change the culture?
Look, we can certainly talk about the long-term changes to the culture. If you want to get murders from 300 to 0, then certainly we have to talk about those things. But those initial steps of getting murders from 300 to 200 to 100, that just requires police and prosecutors to do the work that they are charged with doing, do the work that they're paid to do, which is to arrest people that are committing crimes and prosecute them effectively. That basic blocking and tackling that is the work of municipal government, that hasn't been done, and frankly, everybody knows it.
All right, Thuroo Vignarajah, thank you for joining us this afternoon, Thuroo, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk with you some more.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Well, the officer ambush is leaving Baltimore absolutely stunned by this latest act of violence.
Megan Gillen spoke with a city pastor with Act Now and has his message to Baltimore.
In response to this tragic and brazen shooting, Chair of Act Now Baltimore Bishop Angel Nunez has this message for all of you watching at home.
People need to get active. People need to pick up the phone, and they need to call, and they need to report. If you know who this person was, don't sit there, oh, that's my boy. I'm not going to turn him in. I'm not a rat. I'm not this and that. No. You need to pick up the phone, and you need to call, because next time it could be your kid, it could be your husband, it could be your wife. Pick up the freaking phone. We need to crack down on these violent, repeated offenders. I can assure you that when this person is arrested or persons is arrested, you're going to find out that they have a record.
Bishop Nunez went on to say that residents are telling him that they appreciate programs that can help reduce crime in the future, but say they need help now. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Well, reactions are pouring in on social media since the officers' ambush overnight. Amy Simpson joins us live in studio with more on what state leaders and other police departments are saying. Amy?
Kai, we're really hearing from all corners of Maryland and even beyond Maryland with that reaction on social media. The governor just tweeting again a few minutes ago to say he actually spoke with Mayor Brandon Scott and Commissioner Michael Harrison this afternoon, but also surrounding police jurisdictions reacting today. Baltimore County Police saying it has the Baltimore Police Department in its prayers today. Meanwhile, Anne Arundel County Police says it's praying for the Baltimore Police Department. Also, Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger saying, I'm sick sickened and outraged by this morning's attack against a Baltimore police officer while she was in her car on duty protecting Maryland's 2nd District and Baltimore City. He's also praying for her. Also interesting to see, we also have, let me pull it up here, Maryland State Police has the Baltimore Police in our prayers following that shooting as well in Baltimore City. Let me pull this up again. And the FBI in the Baltimore field office here saying FBI Baltimore assisting police after an officer was ambushed in her car this morning. Our thoughts are with her, her family, and her colleagues. We will continue to track this, of course, on social media as we wait to hear from city leaders at a press conference in just a few minutes. Guys, back to you.
Amy, thank you. Many Baltimore activists blaming city leadership. Some, the city state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, who had announced earlier this year that her office will stop prosecuting what she calls lower-level crimes. Former mayoral candidate Pastor Shannon Wright is among those who is also critical of the mayor.
And to Mayor Scott, if you are watching, if you see this piece, it is time for you to pull up your big boy pants, tie them up tight, and get to work. Grown folk understand leadership and how to make it do what it do. It is time for you to stop with the smoke and mirrors. It is time for you to stop with the talk that leads people to believe that we are a lawless society. This city has a rich history and culture, and it's time for you to stop disrespecting that and do what you were elected to do.
That brings us to our question of the day. Following the shooting of a Baltimore City officer, do you trust the mayor and elected leaders to reduce crime? 97% voted no.
Again, please join us tonight at 7 o'clock at our District 13 Your Voice, Your Future City in Crisis Town Hall. It will take place at Huber Memorial Church on Lockraven Boulevard. Included on the panel, Pastor P.M. Smith, a lifelong resident of District 13, and Leon Purnell, Executive Director of the Men and Family Center, which is also in District 13. Mayor Brandon Scott and the city councilman in that district, Antonio Glover, have both refused our invitation.